Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Painting the Right Way. I'm your host, Jeffrey Wright. Today, I got some new brushes that came in. Woot woot. Checking them out. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's nice. That's going to be great for blending. Maybe even do a big tree with that one. And another fan brush. This one's the number 8. It's going to do some nice big trees for me. And of course, a number 4 fan brush. That's going to be good to doing some trees as well. Little smaller ones. Can't wait to get started. And today what I'm going to be doing is probably a misty evergreen kind of thing where there's a lot of mist coming up off the trees. It's going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, we're going to break it down to stages instead of one long episode. So stay tuned. Each section will be coming out as they come up. And let's have fun. Let's go on an adventure. All right, everyone. So today we're going to do a little bit more of a close-up on my canvas. And what I'm going to do is start off with a dry, blank, pre-stretched, primed, pre-primed canvas. And I'm going to use what I've put from here, and I made this. This is titanium white oil paint mixed with a little bit of linseed oil. About 50-50 portions of each, and it's actually liquid white. And what we're going to do is just dab a little bit, because I want everybody to see how we're going to do a wet on wet style painting, which is popular with Bob Ross, but it is also a very convenient way of painting. So I'm using just a little bit of this on my brush, not hardly any at all, not loading it all up, just a little bit. And I'm just going to be putting it on in little parts in a crisscross pattern. So you get enough on there. Make sure you get the whole thing, very thin, even coat across the whole thing. So get it on there however you want, circle patterns, crisscross. And the idea is to make sure it's very, very thin. Don't paint your thumb. And you want it even across the whole thing. Just to make it so it's a wet, slick canvas, back and forth, back and forth. Get the hair off of there. If you find you don't quite have enough to stretch it all the way across, that's fine. You just make sure you get it on there. If you feel you have a little bit too much, you can use a rag to take it off. Too much is usually the problem with the liquid clear when we put it on. If you have too much, it's going to actually dull down your paints too much. It'll be too slick and you won't be able to leave any paint behind, which is not what we want. And the linseed oil reacts with the oil paint and allows it to slow down its drying process. So this painting is going to take a little longer to dry than normal. And what you could do to help speed that up is just add just a dash, just the tiniest amount of paint thinner. And of course, you don't want to drive your brush in too much, right? You just want to get a nice, thin, light, smooth coat across the whole thing. And be gentle. The biggest thing, just a lot of times I see is that we become too harsh with the brush, like we're trying to paint a house or something ridiculous. We're almost letting the air do the work. We're just moving it around that way. And there we go. We have a very nice thin coat all the way across. So go ahead and clean that brush right off. Get that paint right off of there. And of course, we get to tap off and beat the daylights out of that brush so it's nice and clean. So now you have your clean brush, and let's dive in. New palette board, fresh paints, we're ready to have some fun. Okay, so to dive right in, what we're going to do is take your little knife and take just a little bit of this yellow ochre right here, a little bit of this brown right here, and clean your knife for a second. Take a chunk of white. Take a little bit of those colors. And we're going to just mix this in very, very light. We want a very, very light beige color coming up. Oh, this is going to be a lot easier for me to clean. I recommend you buy one of these pallet boards if you don't really want to be making your own pallet boards, or use a chunk of wood or something, whatever you've got. All right, so now that you got the color, I think it should be a little bit more white. So take half of that, mix it in. Now remember, don't get too carried away because it will be blending in. It will be blending in. We're just going to mix it all in. And we're going to use the white that we just put on. And all we're trying to do at this point, taking our brush, pulling down, and we're just going to load a little bit into the paintbrush and tapping it in. By tapping it in, we're driving the paint right up into the bristles. All right, so we go ahead and we're going to want that all up in here. So we're just going to add the color, nice beige color, all the way down. You can hardly see it. If you're worried it's too light, add a little bit more color to it. Don't be shy. I'm going to darken it up a bit. Keep going, keep blending. Crisscross patterns are really good to help bring out a more even coat when you go to blend it out. Doing that, it's not really ideal. Doing this, you could do this too. This one I like. Just to give your brush a swirl, helps make it pretty even across the board. Just like that. And we want it almost smoky, right? And then very lightly get rid of your brush strokes. All right, beautiful. Now let's get started. We're going to grab a number 4 fan brush, my brand new brush here. We're going to dive right into, we can grab a little bit of that green, right into the sap green. Oh, this is a nice brush. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to work from the foreground forward, and we just did the sky, kind of the sky. We're going for a lot of greenery in this painting. So we're going to just add, simply tapping it almost like this. If it's not sticking, I don't know how many times I might have said these in my last videos, but don't be afraid. Use paint thinner. Just a little bit. Just like this. Now we're going to just keep it getting light as we go down. When I leave the camera, I'm just loading up the bristles. I don't like the way that turned out. So down here doesn't matter as much because we'll be blending all this out. And of course, we'll do one in here. Needs more friends. We're going to do a forest here. Don't be shy. It's gonna turn out just fine. I'll show you what we're doing in a minute here. No detail, don't go crazy. This is far away. There's a reason we're doing it this way. Or you just leave some impressions of trees in the background. Just like that. All right, clean your brush. Always clean your brush. Never leave a dirty brush. A lesson I learned many years later. All right. Same dirty brush we had with the 2-inch that has the sky in here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to very, very lightly kind of mix in, blend out some of this other stuff here. Hardly touching it. Hardly touching it. We want to keep the treetops. We don't care too much about down here. And we're just going to mix it up a bit to blend it out. I'll show you what we're doing as we come up here a little bit more. Now when you lift very, very lightly, barely touching, I don't know how to explain that without saying 2 hairs in air, maybe even 3 hairs. So very, very light. It's not picking it up and smearing your paint all over. All right. So just very lightly swirling around, getting rid of all the color that's of depth that we're just looking to make some deep color. So maybe grab a little bit of that brown, a little bit of black, and put it on the tip of your brush. Just a little bit of brown and black mixed together. We're going to come right in here and we're going to darken this up a bit by swirling it in. Same way, very lightly adding it. Just want the color to bring some depth. Clean your brush. Now we need a clean brush for this one. And these are the distant trees. Okay, so here we're just going to pull up. Pull up. Doesn't matter if we're coming down. Pull up. Very light. All the way through the trees you did. All the way, almost like we're making some water here. Tap off any excess paint and just right light. And we're going to blend it. And we want that color in there. Don't worry. Just getting background shadows and building up this color we want. And now I'll get starting on the second part. We're going to come right into the lemon yellow. Just pull it straight down. We're going to add a little bit of green. Using that number 4 fan brush, maybe a little bit of the yellow ochre. Pull it right in there. Make a nice bright yellow. A little more yellow. A little more lemon in there. And all we're going to do is the same thing right over top where we already did it. And we're just going to add just the tips of the trees where we remembered they're popping out. Because we're trying to get some fog happening in here. Now we know we're doing big trees in here. We know we're doing that. So we're just focusing on the middle here. Just getting it out of the way. All right. So now that we did that, a little bit of the dark color again, we're just going to add a little bit of details here and there. Very light. That's all we're doing is very, very light. Adding the accents of the trees in there so that you almost have detail throughout. But you're not looking for detail. You're looking for the color. No detail really, because we're not focusing. We're going to have a lot more trees coming down Maybe it's a valley, maybe it's something else. I'm not sure what we've got going here. In fact, you can actually use this brush to do some of these things here. I'm going to show real quick how we're going to fan this out a bit. Using the same brush if you want. Clean a little bit of the excess paint off. Just use a rag that you have, and very lightly, hardly touching the canvas. Just lift up in the direction you want your fog to go. You're going to go right through that stuff we painted. This time lighter than we did last time. Just like that. Now if you wanted, you could use one of these big things here, or just a clean 2-inch brush. And we're going to do it again. Very lightly. Bring in all our distant trees and soften them. There. Well, for now, that's a great place to stop. We're going to leave it there with that lovely color. If you wanted, you can, it's your world. You can go on your own adventure. You can do a more yellow sky if you wanted. I wanted something a little bit more beige. I may add a little bit more yellow here. Well, we're going to just do that. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. Lemon yellow up in the corners. That's all we're doing. You can use a clean brush for this. I'm just going to mix it in. And the more you mix, the better. Maybe you want some sun peeking through there. All you're trying to do is get the colors, right? You want the colors to be blended through. And very lightly, straight across. Maybe the sun's trying to poke through there. It's hitting the fog. It brings nice warm glow to it. So I hope you enjoyed this part. Stay tuned. We've got the next few trees and layers as we work forward working on our detail. Hope you enjoyed.